It had been a few weeks since Mikey ran away from home, and a few weeks since he'd been living in the unknown part of New York City. What he knows so far, nobody has lived in these parts of the city for years, even before he was mutated. No one, not even the Foot or possibly Shredder, knows about this place. He hopes nobody will find him or his sweet cupcake, because he fears they will do the same thing like Raph did to Pinkie. But lately, he's been receiving food and supplies from the skeletal pony in secret, so he wouldn't die from starvation or freezing to death. But Pinkie Pie has been very silent for the past few weeks. He didn't know why. It could be that skeletal pony that brought her back to him. Could it? But whatever it was, Mikey wanted to help her, but he couldn't, not without knowing what was bothering her. But he wants to find out sooner or later. One night, as he was eating some ramen he received from the skeletal pony the other night, he felt a familiar presence near him. Switching his gaze over, he found his sweet cupcake sitting not too far from him. He knows she's watching him, until he heard a quiet sniffle in his mind. He was immediately alarmed by the sound, and he looked over to Pinkie with worry. Before he knew, he was almost shaken to see the pink pony plush having tears leaving her marble-like blue eyes. Actual tears falling down her cheeks made his heart crack at the sight. "Pinkie, what's the matter?" he asked worriedly. The sniffling continued before a sad, slightly less high-pitched voice finally replied.
I have something to really tell you about my savory pizza."
Mikey nearly blushed at the sound of his new nickname, but less seeable due to the worried look he had on his face. He set his ramen aside and got up, then walked to her, with almost a rush in his step, but kept it steady so he didn't fall. He knelt down and patted her mane before he noticed the eyes. They looked more realistic than he last checked, and the feel of her mane felt more real than the last he felt too. His heart began to race, as he was slowly starting to come to the realization that this may not be his beloved Pinkie Pie doll.
"Mikey, I know I should have told you this, but I was scared how you would react, especially of what I truly am."
Pinkie's voice nearly sounded like she was breaking, but it didn't even crack. Mikey could sense the feared tone in her voice, so he knew how important this was to her.
"You sure you want to tell me now, Pinks? Because if you're not ready..." "I am ready, Mikes."
Mikey almost jumped out of his shell when he heard the sound of Pinkie's voice. It wasn't in his mind, but out loud for him to actually hear. When he looked at her with complete focus, now he could see that she no longer looked fake anymore. Her coat seemed much softer. Her mane and tail seemed much more moving when the wind blew in the building a bit. Her cutie mark looked fake, but looked more like a symbol, like a tattoo. But looked more real were her eyes. Those blue eyes held shame, sadness, and possibly fear. Her mouth seemed to open up a bit, revealing its real, no stuffing or cotton, but an actual real mouth, teeth, gums, tongue, and everything.
"What's bothering me for the last few weeks was my past."
He looked at Pinkie Pie, confused and surprised at the same time.
"Your past?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. "I think it's about time I tell you about it."
Mikey nodded gently and sat down next to her to listen. Pinkie Pie cleared her throat and tapped something on her right ear. Mikey noticed that it wasn't her ear, but her hot pink rose barrette. All of a sudden, it started to glow brightly, and something was now being pulled away from it with a mysterious, gentle breeze that came out of nowhere. It turns out it was the petals of the rose. The petals followed the breeze gently before they started to form into something. Mikey watched in awe as the petals started to turn pale yellow and take form what appears to be a large pony, the same size and height of the skeletal pony, only it didn't look like the skeletal pony at all, but a real-looking live one. Then more petals began to form another form next to the larger pony, only this time the petals stayed hot pink, and they took the form of a little pony with a bouncy mane and tail. He began to realize who the little pony may be.
"Is that you?"
he asked, pointing at the little pony.
"Yes, it's me, when I was a filly,"
Pinkie Pie said, her voice cracking a bit.
"And this is my backstory."
Mikey remained quiet to listen, while he watched in awe as the petal ponies began to act out a scene from Pinkie Pie's memories.
Long ago, before I even came to New York City, I lived in a place called Equestria. I lived with two parents named Igneous Rock and Cloudy Quartz, but I also lived with 4 sisters: Limestone Pie, Maud Pie, Marble Pie, and Obsidian Pie.
The pale yellow petals suddenly turned dark brownish gold and light bluish gray before taking down the large pony's shape and formed into 2 different ponies. One stallion wearing a large, weird-looking hat was the dark brownish gold one, and one mare wearing what seems to be glasses and a shawl was the light bluish gray. Then more petals began to take form as the filly Pinkie Pie began to turn smaller before she looked and now like a tiny baby earthful, with her mane and tail completely straight and flat. The new petals took different colors as they took on in the same shape. One filly had the color of grayish lavender mixed with blue. Another was darkish gray. The third was a light gray, and the last one was a dark gray with a tinge of blue. All the fillies were all small, as the same size like Pinkie was when he was a turtle tot.
Due to me being a baby, my real parents didn't seem to care a bit about me or the others. One night, while in bed sleeping in our crib, I heard the sound of flapping wings. When I woke up, I was greeted by 2 rose-pink eyes and 1 bright red eye. I didn't cry when I met the eyes of her, but I was most likely curious. She was looking into my eyes before she made a shocked face. The same goes to the other pony. I didn't know what they were talking about that time, before me and Obsidian were lifted up in her arms, while Limestone, Maud, and Marble were carried by the other pony, before we flew away into the night.
The petals took the forms of Igneous and Cloudy, neglecting to feed their hungry babies while talking to each other, before the petals took the form of a brown crib, where baby Pinkie and her sisters were sleeping. But as Mikey watched the baby ponies sleep, large petals took 2 forms of 2 ponies, with one pale yellow and the other light red or pink. He watched in curiosity as baby Pinkie Pie woke up to see the pale yellow pony looking at her before it just stared right into her eyes. Before long, even if Mikey can't see the face since it wasn't formed, he could tell it was very shocked like the light red pony. He watched how the 2 ponies seemed to talk for at least a few minutes. They turned back, and their horns lit up with pale yellow and light red magic, made by more petals. The petals began to make some kind of magic aura, as baby Pinkie Pie and Obsidian were lifted up and placed in the arms of the pale yellow pony, while Limestone, Maud, and Marble were placed on the light red pony's back, carefully avoiding the wings. Once they were secured safely in their arms and on their back, the 2 ponies flew away and vanished.
The new pony that took me and Obsidian was my new mama, and the light red pony who took the others was my Uncle Saber. Mama took me and my sister to a world where creatures called Pokemon, who lived in harmony with humans and other species like Mobians, mutants like you, ponies like me, and more.
The pedals moved to show the two ponies carrying the babies to a place where multiple creatures lived. Mikey looked closely and saw little petals-made creatures in the shapes of little puppies or kittens or even large birds. They didn't look like any animal Mikey has ever seen. Seeing those must be Pokemon Pinkie must have said about. When he looked more closely, he was almost amazed to see the petals shaping humans, mutants, and even other ponies enjoying the land and with Pokemon that were with them.
Mama and my new papa, a bright sand Mobian ice hog, took care of me and Obsidian along with many others for the next couple of years until I was a little filly. On my birthday, I was given a crocodile, like Pokemon, called a Sandile, who I named Gummy. Sure, I was bullied by an earth pony named Lemon Zest and her Whismer, Wizzy, but I pulled through. But when I was a filly, that's when Mama told me why she took me an Obsidian. Our real parents didn't love us, and they were going to force one of us to marry some pony who we don't know nor doesn't care about anything or anyone but themselves.
Mikey was almost in complete shock when he heard that part of the story. As the petals made little baby Pinkie Pie and Obsidian into the little fillies, where Pinkie had her bouncy mane and tail instead of her flat style, while Obsidian kept her straight mane and tail style. The large pale yellow pony and a new large cyan-colored shape of a hedgehog with new bangs and wearing some kind of gloves and shoes were then shown explaining why she took them, showing them Igneous and Cloudy selling one of them away for money to an unknown pony or creature. This part made Mikey's temper flare, and his blood had started to become a boil. Pinkie Pie nor her other sisters doesn't deserve to go through a loveless, forced marriage just because their parents only wanted money.
You see, unlike Mobians like you and your friends and family who were mutated from normal animals, Mobian animals were born just the way you are right now. No mutation, just born that way.
She took her time to make the petals orange and shape them into Mikey, and placed the large cyan-colored shape the Mobian hedgehog next to him, showing him the difference.
The next years passed until I was around the age of a teen, at least last year. One night, Mama and I were out walking in the village together when all of a sudden, screams filled the air. Not screams of little foals playing and enjoying the good times. Screams of fearing for your life. We followed them, and we were in shock to see my real parents with him.
Pinkie growled the last part with the sound of hatred. The petals made the pale yellow pony and a now teen Pinkie Pie walking alongside each other when they looked up like a deer in headlights. In quick haste, the pale yellow pony trotted away with teen Pinkie, following her. When they arrived, they saw Igneous and Cloudy holding torches of flames, when a new pony walked in front of them and stood like he's the king. His color was a grayish azure stallion, with a horn poking out of his mane. Mikey thought he looked mean and cruel, as he didn't like that pose at all.
His name was Royal Pin, and my parents were going to force me to marry him, since he was very rich. But if I did, he treats me as an object and only uses me for his own needs. If I throw a party, he'll punish me and make me join him in destroying the party as well as any other parties he sees.
Pinkie described that unicorn with malice and hatred in her tone, before making a hard clop on the ground with her hoof. Unaware of her, Mikey was getting more fueled with anger when she described her forced fiancé to him. He let out a lowly, dangerous growl under his breath, but the pink pony didn't seem to notice or hear it, which was good.
Mama refused and secretly handed me something while Igneous, Cloudy, and Royal attacked her. I made a run for it with the little vial in my hoof as I heard Mama scream. I hid on a hill far away from the village as I watched Mama be surrounded by the gold and yellow flames. I couldn't go down there to save her, or they would kidnap me and my sister. But then the flames started to turn to black and pink.
The orange-masked turtle watched in horror as Pinkie's mother secretly handed Pinkie Pie a little vial with purple liquid inside before Pinkie ran for it, and her mother was attacked by the 3 terrorists as Royal set her on fire. The youngest turtle felt his anger slowly come to a boil, as he wasn't controlling it very well. He wasn't even aware his hands started to heat up a bit, but he didn't even bother to check it out. But before his anger got the best of him, the fire-colored petals suddenly bursted into black and pink flames instead of normal fire.
As I watched, I saw the flames suddenly separate, and I couldn't believe my own eyes as I saw someone or something standing in Mama's place. It had no organs, nor fur coat. Her bones remained white, but her mane and tail turned dark as night, as there was no color left in them. I watched Mama jump on them before running away.
The black and pink fire petals immediately separated to reveal a white petal formed that was extremely thin, and the wings now looked like bones with spikes. Mikey watched in shock as the thing attacked Igneous and Cloudy, while Royal tried to search for a weapon, before he noticed Pinkie Pie on the hill run away to avoid being seen.
After I ran enough, somewhere close to a nearby cabin, I broke down crying after I got away. It wasn't easy losing Mama forever, and now she's dead, and some creature took her place. But anyways, after I remembered the potion she gave me, I remember she told me that this will keep me safe until she can find me, until it will eventually wear off. I was sure she wouldn't find me because she was burnt alive in the fire, but I drank it anyways, and that's what turned me into a doll.
Mikey watched as the petal-formed Pinkie Pie galloped towards an empty cabin and collapsed to the ground, crying her heart out. She continued to cry for what seemed like forever to Mikey, when she eventually calmed down before looking at her petal-formed hoof to see the little blue vial with the purple liquid bubbling inside. A few more tears slipped down her cheeks before she pulled the cork off with her teeth and quickly drank the potion with one gulp. The turtle's anger had dissipated into shock as he watched the petal-formed Pinkie Pie shrink down and flopped onto the ground. She didn't move again.
I couldn't speak, think anymore, nor could I move. I was lucky enough to be found by a filly who loved me as her own doll. I was happy. But then one day, she gave me away to another child. Then that child gave me away to another. Child after child, some weren't as loving and caring as the others. That's how I got all scratched up. To save my barrette, and the only piece Mama gave me as a baby, I placed it in my chest next to my heart before I was tossed into the garbage.
The petals moved from pink to blue to show each boy and girl whoever had her and what they did with her. Some played and cared for her like she was a real foal, but it ended when a little boy started to throw her around before passing her on to other children who treated her the same way he treated her. Mikey's anger flared up once more as he watched his sweet cupcake get beaten, kicked, punched, tossed, thrown, and more as the children didn't treat her as they should like the previous kids. Then one kid decided to pull Pinkie's barrette off and place it inside her chest, next to the heart, before he threw her out of the window, and she landed in the garbage.
And that's when you found me.
When Pinkie Pie finished her story, she turned to look at her savory pizza before she jumped to see the sight of Mikey's anger. Mikey was never the turtle to get very angry, since it was usually Rap's thing. To Pinkie, it was scary. That's when she noticed his hands. A bright orange light was in the palm of his hands, and it was growing brighter and brighter the more his anger was fueled. Before she knew it, the petals had quickly returned to her barrette, and the whole room was lit up with bright orange. Realizing he was about to blow, Pinkie felt the adrenaline run through her legs again, as in a blink of an eye she jumped up and ran to a nearby barrel and hid behind it when she heard Mikey's scream. Right outside of the building, a powerful electrical orange lightning bolt had blasted through the roof, and it nearly reached the sky. Her two black empty eyes watched in silence as she hid in a tree on a far hill away from the city. Back in the building, when the lightning bolt disappeared, Mikey panted quietly before his vision began to blur. His heartbeat began to echo through his ears. His whole body was shaking with rage he had burning inside of him. Before he knew it, he was already on the floor, trembling, when he heard Pinkie crying out his name before the entire world went dark.